Data scientist for diversity, and he's here to talk to you all about data science, which is relevant to many of you here right now. So, Alejo, take it over.
Thank you very much, thank you guys for having me. I'm excited to share with you what I've worked on this last year since I graduated. My name is Alejo. I'm from Argentina originally. Lived in Mexico many years and came to Plattsburgh in 2015, graduated in 2018. I decided my senior year that I wanted to move to San Francisco. That's the place where I would get the things that I was looking for in terms of people, in terms of a tech hub, which is something I'm going to touch on later. So the importance of that, and if that's what you're looking for, I'm also going to give some tips on that. I've been doing machine learning and data science, analytics for almost 2 years now, and it's been quite a ride. I'm going to share with you guys main things that I've learned, main things that I've worked on in terms of projects. If any questions come up during that might be relevant to what I'm speaking of right now, definitely raise your hands. That's awesome to me. And any questions you want to leave till the end, we're going to make some time for that. So there are 4 main things that really fascinate me about machine learning. I've always been into sciences, be it social sciences, financial sciences, more hard sciences like math or chemistry. And when I stumbled upon machine learning through YouTube videos, what struck me was that it was a field that it's being developed. So the stage where it's at, it's not finished by any means, right? There's things that I can do, that I can provide. The complexity of it, it's definitely not something trivial. And what can come for the future is what caught my attention, meaning I could work on this 10, 20 years and still be making progress. That was important to me. And the part of ethics, that is not only are you a good programmer and can you solve it, can you make this algorithm with the data that you have. It's really not only about that, but what's the impact of all of this. So I definitely want to address the scary subject. I hear a lot, I'm sure in this room, more educated people, you got less on this mindset of artificial intelligence equals scary, because we don't know how to control it, because we don't know what it will do. And it's a good point that uncertainty can be scary, but 2 things that I'm going to address is how job displacement might take place, and that other than displacing jobs, we might be able to collaborate with these new technologies. And robots taking over, which might not happen anytime soon. I'm also going to address that actually. So I'm also going to talk a little bit about what you might do after for whoever's in the master's, what you might look after in terms of cities, in terms of jobs. And any questions regarding that, more than welcome. I'm also going to address some resources to learn from, which to me, I wish I had been told about when I started. So, 3 main things I want you guys to just take into account as we get through this. Some things that I wish I had been told. First of all, data science is a lot of data cleaning. It's data science. So you need data, obviously, but you need high quality data. High quality data is a lot better than lots of data. So data cleaning becomes the most important step, at least at the beginning. Wonderful thing is once you do it once, it's done with. Once the pre-processing of the data is done, you can use that. And this was a lot of trial and error of not doing that step right, thinking I could just fix it later. So we'll go into that when I talk about my projects. you don't need a $1,500 computer. You can use the cloud, which is free. They give you Amazon, Google Cloud, gives you $300 of credits for a virtual machine, for a GPU, for anything you want. You run out of credits in 3 months, you create another account. I didn't know that, so I bought the $1,500 computer. I'm happy with my computer, but it's not a necessity. And the one that really, even standing today, Impostor Syndrome. You'll never know enough. You'll never feel like you know enough, ever. But what I've learned is that as long as you're sure that you are taking the steps to learning, then there's something you can say. Just make sure you know what that something is. That you're not branching out to things that you don't know about. So that's another lesson that I've learned. So, we're gonna jump into the first area of machine learning. Well, not first, but the first area for me, which is natural language processing. Show of hands, who has heard of natural language processing? Who has done any programs or any algorithms, even like mock, played with any instruments online? Okay. I'm going to show a few examples of it, sort of getting to what is possible and what is being done right now. So NLP, natural language processing, is an intersection of 3 areas, which are linguistics, computer science, and artificial intelligence. Okay? Obviously, with natural language processing, the type of data that we use is text. So we manipulate text data in order to be able to talk to computers, essentially, and for them to talk to us in ways that we understand. So, the basic example is Siri, right? There's 6 steps, which are you talk to Siri, right? You say something, captures the speech, it transforms speech to text. It tries to understand what are the commands that you were trying to give. Makes a prediction for what it thinks that you're trying to say. Okay, so a lot of interpretability, context comes here. Then transforms text to speech, whatever answer, and then plays that audio to you. In what seems, straightforward enough, come a lot of complexities, which, in my opinion, the main one that we're battling with is generalizability. What if I ask anything to Siri? What if I'm trying to have a conversation with Siri? And today you can't. You maybe do 2 or 3 prompts, and everything else Siri will have forgotten. So a continuous conversation is not possible. You lose context, okay? So context in NLP is what we're shooting towards and what we lack right now. We can talk to Siri, we can do whatever it is, quote unquote, programmed to do, but not much more. Other applications of NLP are autocorrect. What's the probability that was the word that you were trying to say when you typed it, but it's actually wrong, right? Translation, you guys might have realized that about 3 years ago, Google Translate went from not being able to translate even a paragraph correctly to now give it a full text, and it'll try to capture the essence of every sentence, of every paragraph. It'll have some continuity to it. It'll understand that which verbs go with he or she. And that's just a little deeper into the algorithms that I'll mention, and so it makes sense to you guys later. Caption generation. What if I give you a video? What if I give the algorithm a video, and it'll create a summary of what is happening in that video? It receives video data, it outputs text data. So, seems simple enough for humans to do it. You process what's happening and then you say it out loud. But when the data that you're inputting is different than the data that you're outputting, you come into certain problems, which is what you're giving me is not what you're asking for. So where's that sort of conversion of of data. So that's one of the complexities of where we're at. Things that we're trying to solve, chatbots, we've all used them, and Google search, you ever heard of knowledge graphs? Google has a knowledge graph of every word and how they relate to each other. So when you query, they have a context. If you're looking for Barack Obama's wife, Michelle Obama will come up in the answer, right? So that's essentially the knowledge graph working with text. So I'll talk about my first project at my job. Like, so first I'll talk about my company. So my company is called Diversity. What we do is essentially a LinkedIn for underrepresented minorities. So we partner up with companies that are looking to diversify their workforce, which is, diversification is now, diversity and inclusion are two buzzwords since a few years ago. What my company is trying to do, well, the company I work for, is trying to do is sort of make a one-stop solution for companies that are looking to diversify but can't find the talent. And talent in minority groups that are qualified, that are looking for those jobs, that are not being seen. Because it's really all about the noise. You go to LinkedIn, and there's other hundreds of millions of people in there. So there's a lot of noise, so recruiters can't really find you. We're trying to address that. So my first project was job recommendations. How do I make valid job recommendations based on your searches within the platform, based on what other jobs you already applied for, right? So how do I make a recommendation to you, knowing very little about you, about what jobs you like, right? First one, the simpler one is, well, what did they search for? What is software engineer? Is that what they search for? Show them the software engineering jobs. But what if they also look for data scientist or data analyst or product manager? How do I know which job that I recommend is going to be relevant later? So how Amazon recommends you products, when you log in, it has history about you. It knows something about you compared to other users. But I had an issue. The company was just starting out. Is just starting out. So with very few users, we had no data. With no data, you obviously can't do data science, right? Simple enough. So I had to think long and hard, what can I use? If you guys are interested, the name of the algorithm that I was trying to use was collaborative filtering. It's a way that Netflix recommends you movies. You have all these movies and all these users. What users have watched what movies? What is the rating for each of those movies? And which users are you similar to, based on your watch history, etc. So it'll recommend you movies inferring what sort of group of users you're similar to and what they have watched. So you get recommended, I don't know, The Joker, because you like suspense movies, action movies, etc. That's collaborative filtering. But I couldn't use this because I had no user data. So what I decided to do was look for data that I could use. And what I could use was job recommendations, because there are hundreds of thousands of job descriptions out there. Sorry, job recommendations. Content-based recommendations. Grabbing the descriptions of jobs and matching them to each other, right? So if I know that this one person applied for a software engineering job, I'm not going to look for title software engineering jobs. I'm going to look for descriptions that are similar. Because what if that person has 5 years of experience? You're not going to show them an entry-level job. Or if that person has had experience in data science and is looking to move into software engineering, well, you can also show them other data science jobs that might be relevant. So it's not really, you want to capture context of what this person, what this user is trying to do. So my first project was scraping thousands of jobs on Indeed, and so that's data collection. And what I had to learn to do was clean up these job descriptions, because a lot of job descriptions, the first paragraph is just about the company. I don't want to learn about the company. That's not relevant to what I'm trying to do, which is, what is the role? What are they going to do? What are the responsibilities, qualifications? So a lot of data cleaning comes with looking at the text. or looking at the images or the videos. So, and that's just part of basic analytics, which is what is the key insight here? What is there missing in this data? What is there too much of? What is useless? And then, well, I had to start researching algorithms. What could I use? Because I had no idea how do you do NLP. That was my introduction to it. It said, this is what we need. This is the result we need. Can you do this? Yes. Awesome. So I started that. Research algorithms, went deep into NLP. Now I look back and it's like, why would I ever choose that algorithm if I know? Now I know that there's much better. I'm going to touch on that in a little bit. I would say the wins from this project was a deep dive of hours and hours and hours a day into a new field, a subfield of machine learning, which is natural language processing. I gained a lot from a first project. Obviously, your first project, you really go in deep and you make a lot of mistakes, right? So you take a lot of lessons. The main lesson for me was data cleaning. So what I shared with you, there's lots of data cleaning to do. You think you've done enough, maybe go check again. And making sure that I had the right data. Not only that the data was clean, but the original data that I scraped was high quality. And that was a problem, because when I came to the end, when I tried these algorithms and got the answers back, I realized there was something off. The algorithm was good enough, and maybe there wasn't enough data, great. But then when I looked back at the data that I had scraped, it all looked very similar. Since I had taken all from Indeed, then it all had the same format. That's what I didn't realize before. And what happens? Generalizability algorithms in machine learning is very, very important. It's the root of it. Because if you show this job description matcher all the same job descriptions, it's never not going to learn what other job descriptions look like. So what if I scrape new jobs from another site? Will it know, the structure of this document? Will it be able to understand what it's trying to say? And if you have data that looks the same, the answer is usually no. That's what we call overfitting in machine learning, or in statistics as well. So if you overfit, you should address the data problem. What is the data that you do have? What is the data that you did get from a data set? You scraped it, whatever. It has to be high quality, diverse data. And this was my second project, still NLP, which was entity recognition off of resumes. This is a very interesting problem because we had a bunch of resumes, not enough, but we had a bunch, and we realized what we wanted to do is make the onboarding process of every new user a lot easier. They didn't have to tell us where they worked, how long they worked there for, what the responsibilities are. We would just take it off of the resume. Simple enough. By making the onboarding process easier, you make retention easier. So you see how data science always goes back to the business use, right? Our objective wasn't how cool would it be to get information out of resumes. That's fine, but what's the business use, right? And you might be halfway through a project and realize, no, we should scrape this. This is not gonna work. This is not gonna bring value. And that's where teamwork in a company comes in. Where you're talking about these things, when you're evaluating, you're validating, and we're gonna go through that as well by the end of the talk. So, information extraction, named entity recognition. Alejo Pijuan goes at the top of my resume. That's my name. I want this algorithm to tell me that is my name, and put it in the onboarding process automatically. Okay, simple enough. But we had maybe 20 resumes to sort of think how this algorithm run. That's not enough. So we looked at other resumes online, and the two options that I had was Indeed, again, or, because they have resumes, or a 200 resume data set that I should have looked at more, because I ended up using that. And then I realized, because it was just in text data and document, it wasn't the actual resumes. And then I realized they have grammar problems in the resumes. They all had the exact same structure, so generalizing was impossible. But what would happen when I trained this algorithm with these 200 resumes, that seemed about enough? What I found at the end was when I tested my resume, extracted my information from my resume. Where did I go to school? What do I do? What's my name, etc. It would grab 3 things: Alejo Bijuan, San Francisco. And I was stumped, because everything else worked. From every other resume worked, from a dataset worked, not mine. So what did I do? I went back to the data. And realized they all look the same. All the resumes start with a name, continue with the city, and then go to something else. So my resume, let's say the job, my resume looked like name, city, and then my description, like an intro. So it only trained for, this is the structure that you should look for, and only this, because that's what I trained it on. So garbage in, garbage out. You have to be very, very careful with the data. There's honestly one thing you take from this, it's that. It's learning data cleaning. I'm actually going to give you some resources for that. So the win of this was I tried several different libraries. I tried Spacey that I'm going to go over. I'm going to mention these, what actual libraries you can use that will make this painless, which is much needed, and it's getting better. So the wins were, I explored different approaches, I explored different libraries. I encountered errors and just dove deep into them. I didn't just have an error and say, okay, I'm just going to change that module, going to try something else. That was really useful for just in general the software engineering aspect, the data aspect, and the being able to manage projects aspect. I wish I could really put into words how much I learned just by seeing a traceback error and just going through the lines and just going through the programs. That is very useful. If you have time, it is a good investment of your time. Learning this debugging. If you're doing a project in 2 weeks, then there isn't really much time for that. But just and the lesson was having the right data was really number one. This is what part of my data set looked like, and it actually all looked like this. It was name, company, etc. And this is an annotator. So there are a way to get data. It's not only a data set online. It's not annotated yourself. Not only, it's also you can use these websites, and they annotate them for you. They have some free tools you can use. It's very useful. If you do have to pay, it's very, very cheap. So if you're looking to do a project and you need data and you don't know where to get it, this is an option. I'm going to go through several more options later. So this is what my data looked like, all of it. So when I input my resume that didn't look like this, I will get a wrong answer back. So thirdly, it's a project that I'm working on currently. It's super exciting to me. I titled it a big challenge because I was given through a competition. There are many, in case you guys didn't know, there are many machine learning competitions online. Kaggle.com, Kaggle. It's a great website for finding projects where they give you the data, they give you the problem, what you have to solve for. And you can there are either tutorials where you can follow instructions, to put your feet on the water, or you can dive deep into a less defined problem. This is what we're trying to optimize for. This is data, and that's all they give you. So competitions, challenges are great for a great way to start start out in your machine learning, data science career. And this challenge that I'm doing right now, picture it this way, and then I'm going to say what it actually is. Imagine being given 20 million products from Amazon. The data from 20 million products of Amazon, right? But you only get the title of the product and the category of the product. You get a third thing. Is this label reliable or not? When I try to sell something in Amazon, if I am trying to sell, let's say, a coat. I'm trying to sell a winter coat, okay? And I put it under jackets. That's not really going to be the right category to put it into. So when people look for jackets, mine is going to come up. In reality, where it should have been, what category it should have been, is winter coats. Okay, simple enough. But it isn't jackets, so the label, we call it unreliable. We can't trust that this label is true. So I'm gonna now deviate a little from this and come back to this problem. I'm gonna talk a little bit about supervised learning. It's a subset of machine learning. It's a way of doing machine learning. So has anybody heard of supervised learning? Okay, great. So very simply, for those who haven't, let's say that we're trying to classify photos of cats, and we want to say this is a cat or this isn't a cat. It can be a dog, it can be furniture, whatever. This is a cat or this isn't a cat. What we're going to do is grab a lot of photos of cats and things that aren't cats and label them. Maybe they're already labeled, and you label them. This is a cat, not cat, cat, not cat. You can run different algorithms where you classify. It's a binary classification. Cat, no cat. And what this training process is doing is learning from its own errors. Finding the patterns for which I say no cat, but it was actually cat. Okay, what can I learn from this image that I didn't know before? What new information can I learn from this error? Or what new information can I learn from this that was right? You can also learn from, the algorithm can also learn from the things it did right. So after training, it'll predict at X amount, X accuracy for cats or not cats. This is something very similar. The big difference is that you're not trying to classify for 2 classes, you're actually trying to classify for thousands of classes. Let's say 2,000 classes. So you said this was jacket, but it was actually winter jackets, okay? That will be automatically wrong. It's not the right category. Is it close? Semantically, yes. In meaning, are they close? Yes. But that's not what matters here. Is it classified right or wrong? So what if the data that you're given is unreliable on purpose? We saw that it learns from the mistakes and it learns from the things it did right. But what if you tell it, you know what, you're 90% right? Is that the right category? Yes. But you're still 90% right. We'll go over that in a second. So what if the data is unreliable on purpose? What if there's too much data to handle at once? What if there's 20 million products that you're trying this algorithm to learn? You're going to face a problem, which is it is too much data for this algorithm to train on once and again and again and again. It's gonna spend, you're really going to spend too much time, and if you're using the cloud, too much money, on training this. Because how this works is you get the 20 million products and you pass them through the algorithm. One by one, well, not by one, but in chunks. And then you pass it again, and then you pass it again. What you can do, if you have enough data, what you can do is get a subset of these 20 million products. Let's say 1%. So you have 200,000 products, which is still a substantial amount. Might not be enough to train the whole algorithm, but you can try different algorithms. So the lesson here is get subsets of your data. It'll train much faster. If you have enough data, that's the way to go. And what if you had thousands of imbalanced categories? So as well as there are unreliable labels, there will also be reliable ones. In this challenge, the authors of the challenge labeled about 20,000 products correctly. Like they know that is correct. Actually more than 20,000, like 200,000. They know that it is correct. So when you train their algorithm on that, it'll be certain that those are correct. What happens when you get all the unreliable data in there too? Well, things get mixed up. But it's not only that, but I can look for mannequins on Amazon, and I might find, I don't know, 20, 30 products. I might look for computer stands, and I might find 2,000. So that's an imbalanced category. You have 2,000 of one product, but only 30 of the other. So how will it learn the features of mannequins if it has little data to go with? Even worse, when you don't have the images of the mannequin, you have just the title. So it has to learn. So that was another challenge that I, essentially yet to solve. I'm working on this, but these are the questions that I'm asking myself. So the problem with supervised learning here is that you're not always right. You're not always 100% right. You're not certain that that is the cat. You're gonna be less certain. You're gonna be 90%, let's say, certain, and 10% not a cat, right? That way, when it does make a mistake, it can learn from the things that don't seem right, from these categories that aren't reliable. So you won't say, since a category is unreliable, it might be just plain wrong. It might be right, but it might be wrong. So let's not say that it is certain. Let's not say, because otherwise it will learn its mistakes. It will, since it learns from the wins and the mistakes, you'll tell it this is correct, but it was unreliable. If it's wrong, it'll learn that something is right, but it was wrong. So it'll learn the wrong features. It will unlearn important features and learn other wrong features. So the solution is called label smoothing. You smooth out the labels. You don't say it's 100%, you smooth it out. Smoothing that far. I'm pretty sure, but not certain. So that's the project that I'm working on now. And I want to talk a little bit about the state of the art in natural language processing, what happened last year, what is happening this year. Has anyone heard of BERT? It's an algorithm released by Google AI research. It solved a few of the problems that we're actually talking about right now. Oh, by the way, there was an implementation of it in only 10 lines, which was good, because these research papers, when you first try to implement them, if they're not well documented, it usually takes many, many lines of code. It is very complex. So the fact that when they release the papers, there's implementations like this is really, really useful. The simpler the implementation, the more you want to get more attracted to those algorithms. So the things that BERT solved for natural language processing, this was last year, was it's unsupervised. It's unsupervised learning. It knows features from text. It knows a lot of features from text. So since those features are already known to the algorithm, that's called pre-training, Google tells us, here's the whole algorithm. You don't have to train it from scratch. You don't need all the data, the gigabytes and gigabytes of data that we use. You don't need that. You can just use your data. If you have 1,000 products, then use that. And they sort of almost guarantee you that it'll be good. And that's a breakthrough in natural language processing. Until very recently, we had to do everything from scratch. Absolutely everything. You get the data, you have everything pre-processing, cleaning everything, and then comes a few days of training for algorithms like this. So this was probably, let's say, 1 to 2 weeks of training on Google's machines. So obviously on this, it would take a little longer. Not ideal. So that's called transfer learning. Is it a project or a company releases a paper, it releases the pre-trained model, you can just put your data in it, and it'll fine-tune. That's called fine-tuning. Once you put your data in, it'll learn what you're actually trying to solve. It has a lot of data about Wikipedia, and it has a lot of data about news, but now I want to learn about products on Amazon. Give me those features. Tell me what that's about. With little data, now it's possible. More contextual, it can, that's a bit of a rabbit hole to get into, but it's more contextual. It grabs more data. It can sort of read more data at a time. It'll read it one way, and it'll read it the other way. So context is easier to grab. Transfer learning mentioned, and yeah, less data needed. And this is a video I'm going to play, very short. This is what they've been able to do with it. And this is, okay, who doesn't code in here? Who really hasn't ever coded? Okay, cool. Then this is going to hopefully blow your minds. Let's play it. I don't know how to, you know what? Give me a second. Okay. So what is going to happen is he's just writing a program, and you'll see what pops up. These are full lines of code that an algorithm was trained on. It's called the company's called Tab9. So Tab is tab complete. And you'll see what shows up. It's full lines of code. It's predicting what the user is trying to write. And I'll give you the full with the names of the variable correctly. It understands your intent, right? It filled this whole format part. It knew that there were two variables there that they wanted to fill, so fill the two variables. This was incredible when I first saw it. This is actually very new, this year new. And it's based off of, I might be wrong, but it's essentially similar. That's based off of this. That's the kind of things that this can do. It can predict what you're trying to code, which up till now we've all wanted to do and not write the code. This is exciting. So GPT-2 is another big algorithm from OpenAI. OpenAI is an organization that was funded by Elon Musk in 2015. Then he left the board of directors. Now it's being managed by other very, very smart people. And they released an algorithm, either 2017 or last year, that seemed very, very, very powerful. But there was one caveat to it. It wasn't the full algorithm. It wasn't the full trained 40 gigas of data algorithm with the let's just say the complexity of the algorithm. They released a smaller version. Same amount of data, but that understood the data differently. It couldn't capture as much context. And funny enough, what the algorithm does is simply predict the next word of a text. I can give it a prompt, and it'll predict the next word, and that's it. Then it'll grab what it wrote, plus what you gave it, and it'll write the next word. Then it'll grab that, and it'll write the next word. When you have word and word and word and word, you can create a text. How contextual is that text? How well written it is? Up until now, it's been really, really hard to get a machine to write contextual text or debate, for example. And now you're going to see that. This is called GPT-2. It's 1.5 billion parameters in the neural network. If that means anything, then you know that's really, really big. This is the second version of it, and there's a third version. I just want you guys to see what it was able to do. So the prompt starts: a train carriage containing controlled nuclear materials was stolen in Cincinnati today. Its whereabouts are unknown. That's the prompt. And what it outputs is: the incident occurred on the downtown train line, which runs from Covington to Ashland stations. In an email to Ohio news outlets, the U.S. Department of Energy said it is working with the Federal Railroad Administration to find the thief. and I actually get chills. So it captures context. It might not know what the U.S. Department of Energy is, but it understands everything that's around it. It understands that it is in charge of nuclear materials. So context is important. And I want to come back to ethics. They didn't release the full model because it is essentially too powerful. That was the reason for it. In the wrong hands, given enough years, it might cause a lot of damage. And that's just the system prompt and and this is where it can potentially, if you use your imagination a little, can get dangerous. Recycling is good for the world. The prompt is given, and an answer is the prompt is given, and an answer is created. So, recycling is good for the world? No, you could not be more wrong. Elaborate. And it does. And this is actually just the first paragraph of what I think it was like 5 or 6 paragraphs that went into detail of what happens with recycling. And this was the one that shocked me the most. Recycling is bad for our economy. It increases the cost of a product, and in turn, the price of everything that is made with that product. Recycling is not good for a nation. So, when you look at this, and it's actually sort of funny, it is not, we can't say it's right or it's wrong, but it's eloquent-ish. But what happens when you have a bigger model? Again, this is the second model. The third model is twice as big in parameters, which is very considerable, 3 billion parameters. The problem is not when you're talking about recycling. The problem is when a malicious agent grabs this algorithm and says, let's see, Nancy Pelosi deceived the nation. Complete the prompt. Fake news. And you put it online. That is the issue. So, and there's debate as to like why OpenAI released or didn't release the full model, the shorter model. There's debates around that. How I see it, my opinion is that it is powerful. And data science is a tool. It is a tool. It is a tool for business. It's a tool for people. You can do things with it. And those things might be seen as unethical. So what are you doing with it? I understand that probably none of you are going to create fake news using this algorithm. I understand that. But that's just an extreme example. That's just what could happen. When we talk about deep fakes, for example, what's the ethics behind that? How do we counter these videos? How do we grab them from the internet and take it down? That's a whole debate. But that's a logistic debate. And that's what excites me about data science. It's not a tool for business. It's a lot more than that. It impacts the whole world. So, moving on. The other area of machine learning that I want to talk about is reinforcement learning. This is probably my favorite one. It's the first project that I did my senior year of college was based on this. I wanted to create a poker AI. Essentially a poker player that played by itself. It's people against other machines against itself. And it would learn from something called self-play. I play against my version of myself, and I learn. And I play a lot, and I learn a lot. And then I play against my new version of myself, and we try to beat each other. But this is not two agents, this is maybe 32 playing all at the same time. It's really cool. It's a really cool, sort of like application, but I'll get to it. So reinforcement learning. Reinforcement learning, you have to know, take into account 3 things. 1 second. Take into account 4 things. You have an environment, okay? An environment really can be pretty much anything. The environment can be the street. Environment can be the roads. You have an agent. An agent can be a car. You have actions that you can do. You have a set of actions. You can steer this way, you can accelerate this much. And you have rewards. What is the reward that I get from doing the right actions? Or the reward, negative reward, that I get from doing the wrong actions? So there are 4 things: environment, agent, actions, reward. The agent has something called a policy. It tells it, given a certain state of the environment, right? So if this, say, self-driving car, is driving down the road, the environment changes because of the actions that the car does. Because it is, accelerating, it is not the same spot that it was before. It doesn't see the same things, so it has to make new predictions. What do I do now that it changed? And then it changes again. What do I do now that the environment changed? That's essentially it. So the agent has a policy that affects the environment. This policy gets better through practice and learning from errors. Again, ethical issue with self-driving cars. We can't just go make it go do errors outside in the roads, because that would be literally catastrophic. So what can we use? We can use simulations. We can, there's amazing software out there for simulating physics. So you can simulate a ball bouncing, you can simulate a road, you can simulate gravity, which is wonderful. So these tools, for example, gym is one of them. It's a set of environments. Atari games, they have one that I'll show you right now. They have a lot of environments where you can train these algorithms. It's very, very interesting. This is also from OpenAI. Their focus of research is reinforcement learning. Spinning up is where I've learned about this, when I've learned most of what I know about reinforcement learning. So that's for learning. Gym is where you can start applying these algorithms. Look for tutorials online. They'll probably be using gym. It's very versatile, very easy to use. And PyTorch is a library. Has anybody heard of PyTorch? This is a Python library. Question, who here codes in Python? Who codes in R? Okay, great. So this is a Python library. Honestly, in my opinion, the transition from R to Python, if this is relevant to you, if this is something you want to do, it's pretty easy. It's pretty easy. The logic is essentially the same. So what about applications? This is reinforcement learning is a very, very, very young field. It was started to be developed in the 60s. Then it went down for a while. They call it the AI winter for 20 years or so. Then it happened again. Then another AI winter in 2012 is when it restarted again. Reinforcement learning got revived as well, right? And the application that we're looking at right now that could be really, really useful. Okay, again, you can train. They're trainable in simulations for high-risk things like mining, like self-driving cars. These things that we want to run in simulations first. Learn what we can from them, and the real world is going to work differently. So just fine-tune it. Come back to that. So you train it thoroughly, and then you fine-tune it in the real world. And this is simply an optimization problem. This is simply an optimization problem. You're trying to optimize for reward. I want to get more reward. In Pac-Man, you have a game, you have an environment, you have the agent moving around, and it has rewards, which are the points in the top left. Get more reward. That's what you're trying to optimize for. What do you need to do that? You tell nothing else to what it can do, what actions it can do, and you tell it nothing else. And it'll try to figure it out. How will it try to figure it out? Well, before it was very, let's call it raw algorithms. They were very simple and not very powerful. Nowadays, you guys will see what we can do. So warehouse and shipping optimization, FedEx uses shipping optimization. It tries to do the least amount of miles in the least amount of time for you to receive your package. And they save money that way. And in healthcare, there's a really cool application that's being researched. could be applied, not quite yet because of regulations, which is dosing and long-term chronic treatment. You have an environment, which is the human body. In that environment, there are issues. The human needs dosing for something, for some antibiotic, whatever. What this will try to do is optimize how much, how often you need to take this medication. And for long-term treatment, since you have a lot of data, then what you can do is, so you have a lot of data from other users, what you can do is infer what's going to be the optimal treatment for this person. So let's see. Yeah, I think I'll just. Okay. This is just honestly just really cool. I want to show you guys for a few seconds. It's called dexterity. It's a robot hand with many, many joints. I think it's 32 joints, and what simulates muscles in a hand. And it's trying to make this shape. So it has different cameras around, and it tries to move. And you see, it's very, very similar to a human hand. Tries to move this block without dropping it as fast as possible into that shape. It gets a reward. The humans don't tell it, oh, you did it right. It gets a reward automatically from doing it right. So it figures out what are the moves, what are the things that it can't do, what happens if you drop the block. It's a fatal state. You lose, like you can't make any other points, so don't drop the block. Essentially is that. That's a whole other topic I'm not going to get into, but it's really, really cool, and it's called Learning Dexterity if you guys want to YouTube it. That is also OpenAI. And this is also reinforcement learning. So, and this is from the gym environments. This is a game that they did. I'm going to show it. This is a DDPG, it's just the name of an algorithm. This is the 27th time the algorithm has run through this environment. Only the 27th time, it gains a reward from getting over there. There's actually a flag over there, you can see. To that point over there, so it has to, what it doesn't know, it gets a reward from pulling forward, so it gets here and it gets a small, small reward. But then there's an issue. It just, since it got a reward, just keeps trying to go forward. What it doesn't realize is that if it just goes forward, it'll never get to the goal. It has to pull back, gain momentum, and then forward, then back again, and then forward. And in episode 500, it did it in one try. And that's awesome to me. This is just a video by, I gave it like a 2-hour talk on this reinforcement learning a few weeks ago, and I sort of like implemented the algorithm very, very well. It was very, very interesting. The repo is online. I can share it with any of you guys that are maybe interested in reinforcement learning. Looking into the future, only more data is going to come. More data means better algorithms. Okay. So more data means better algorithms. We can think about automated factories in the future. That comes to the issue of job displacement. That is a real issue. So automated factories, fully adaptable self-driving cars, and adaptable is the key word. Because if a kid runs down the street while a self-driving car is there, it has to adapt to the situation. It can't overthink, it can't take too long, it's life or death. But we realize that that is a truth when we drive as well. That is always a truth. But now we have a powerful tool for that to be, for the roads to be a lot safer. They have to be adaptable, and this is looking into the future, next 4, 5, 6 years. So regulation comes with it too. Optimization is just the general concept of reinforcement learning, and then healthcare. This is very exciting to me. We can not only think about these technologies as they would displace the workforce, but as collaboration, human-robot collaboration. out of all the tests that we do with these algorithms that come out with really, really high accuracy for detecting cancer, for detecting diabetes, off of image data, stuff like that, we have a margin of error that the humans can fill in that the computers can't. And I think it is always going to be there, as powerful as these become. So humans are always going to be needed in many, many areas. There are also very automatable sectors, and no one's safe. But, but that's many, many years in the future. I think we'll adapt to it. I think we seriously will. And it's not going to get catastrophic for as long as we think. I think it's going to be a few years of being uncomfortable with jobs going down and stuff like that. But we're going to have a breakthrough. Essentially, an industrial revolution that is happening right now. That's what I think. I wanted to touch on that topic. And I don't know if you guys have seen this. This is called Spot. And I actually have super little time, so I just want to show it real quick. This is Boston Dynamics. They're a cutting-edge organization, started off of MIT, and this is a fully automated Spot, a dog, essentially. Can adapt to different terrains, can sort of like lead commands. You tell it, open the door, and it'll actually, it won't show you. Oh, there we go. So it gives a command, and it adapts to the environment around it. So reinforcement learning. You have an environment, you have an action that you're trying to do. What steps do you have to take that? Opens the door, or the other spot. So they can collaborate as well. And things like construction. So this is essentially like shows if it's construction site, what things can they be helpful with. Okay, and these are languages and frameworks. This is Python. You can find a lot of these or the applications, similar ones in R as well. So I want to touch on, if you want to learn deep learning, if you want to go deep into machine learning, Python might be the way to go for deep learning. Not only machine learning, not only random forest and regression, for NLP, for reinforcement learning, for computer vision. When we want to go deep into these algorithms, Python is really the answer. These are some, you might want to take a picture of this, these are some frameworks that I use, except OpenCV and NLTK, those are just statements. FastAI is where I've learned most of what I know. It's a great course from University of San Francisco, and it is really all you need. It's 12 lessons divided into 2 sections, so, like 6 videos each, and it'll give you absolutely everything you need to understand deep learning. That's what I've been doing. I finished part 1, now I'm in part 2, and it's really invaluable. That's what you want to take. FastAI is the way to go. And they're not sending me money. So designing a project, I'm going to go over this really quickly. I'm going to be super respectful of the time, but this is super important. Who would be interested in doing a project soon in the next, let's say, 4 months? Okay. To design a project, you guys might want to take a picture of this to just run through it later, to have it on hand. Designing a project requires a good question. You have to ask good questions. If you ask wrong questions, you will end up with wrong answers. So how do you pick a good problem? You pick something you're really passionate about, or you pick something that's really useful for a company, for an industry. Ideally both. Ideally the industry that you want to go into, in data science, data analytics, anything, is also the industry that that you're passionate about, right? So picking a good problem is important. It has to be interesting and showcase your skills. Okay, those are the 2 points. Interesting and showcase your skills. So the questions to ask yourself is, what questions are you trying to answer with this project? If you want to do a finance project, right? Look at forecasts. What are the questions that you're trying to ask? Not will we make money or not, or how do we increase the bottom line? How do we optimize costs for a certain product, shipping? What are the factors that we have to look at? So what are the questions that you're trying to answer with this project? What is a realistic way to measure success? If it's about optimizing costs, then you have a really good measure, which is money. Sometimes you don't get the good measures. Sometimes you are just trying to classify text, and you sort of know what success is, but what if you have to test it with users? You need a whole team for that, right? So keeping it simple for a project, but significant, which is always a trade-off. This is not trivial. How are you going to get the data? You can get annotators online, you can find a data set, you can make your own data set. And will it be a 4 or 6 week project? That's an important question to answer as well. Be mindful how much time it's going to take. 4 to 6 weeks is usually a sweet spot. Less than 4 is way too little. It won't give you space to fail. It will not give you space to fail if you do both. You'll end up week 2 and week 3, you'll come in and realize, I have to change my algorithm. I have to get new data. You won't have enough time. So 4 to 6 weeks. So finding the data, you can scrape it, find data set, etc. Competition data sets are great. Explore the data. Can this data really answer my question? Is this a good guide towards the answers? And execute on a project because a lot of cleaning, a lot of cleaning, a lot of cleaning, a lot of cleaning. Okay, you get the point. Can this data really answer my question? So you ask yourself, can this data answer my question? But can this data really answer my question? Because you will go the wrong path if you have the wrong data. If you need to go back, be able to dare to fail. Dare to fail in these projects. Have the wrong data. Try everything. Be wrong. And you will find a way. How are you going to evaluate the accuracy of your model? That's just machine learning, sort of like technicalities to when you're training, and the validity of your results. Again, you can be wrong. You get a result, you can't say this is what it means, and you're not sure that that's what it means. This is how this is going to affect our bottom line. But do you know that? Can you validate that? So don't talk without being sure of what you're talking about. In a job, you will find yourself in trouble, especially in data science. Try different models and approaches, try different things, and validate your results. Are you closer to answering your question? So my personal advice on projects is be compassionate with yourself. Again, be wrong, it's fine. Be patient. It is going to take time. It's going to take a lot of hours of staring at your screen, as you guys know. That's just programming. And know your next project will be better. If you're focusing on learning rather than perfection. If you're focusing on perfection for your first or second project, you will learn a lot less. You won't learn nothing, but you will learn a lot less. You will gain a lot less from it. Your next project will be better. Thank you guys for your time.